In 1999 in Sierra Leone, West Africa, a civil war was raging to fight over a diamond mine. The war had happened since 1991, claiming the life of thousands of people and millions were evacuated. One day, a local fisherman named Solomon was waking up his son named Dia so he would get ready for school. He initially refused to go not because he was lazy, but because he was too tired to walk for 5 kilometers to reach the school. But Solomon reminded him of his dream of becoming a doctor and said that soon the war would end and that Sierra Leone would be a better place for Dia to study to achieve his dream. All his effort and sacrifice would pay for sure. Hearing that made Dia feel motivated to go to school again. After making sure that his son had left for school, Solomon left for the sea to fish. Later in the afternoon, after taking Dia from school, they walked home together when they accidentally saw the Revolutionary United Front, or in short RUF, a group of rebels that fight in the Civil War. He immediately asked Dia to hide while he rushed to reach home to save his family. Sadly, he was captured by the rebels. Meanwhile, at the village, the rebels captured as many villagers as they could and cut off their hands to prevent them from giving their voice in the election. And if one of them rebelled, the leader of the rebels, named Poison, would shoot his gun to silence all of them. When it was Solomon's turn, Poison saw him and decided to let his hand and instead took him to the diamond mine to work there. Somewhere else, the United Nations was having a meeting to discuss the civil war that happened in Sierra Leone. Turned out, RUF was the one behind the war. They betrayed the state and started the war to seize the diamond mine for them to use to fund their troops' weaponry. They used the diamond they mined to buy illegal weapons. Initially, the countries had agreed not to import diamonds from conflicted areas, but the illegal sellers always find a way to smuggle their diamonds and transactions were still happening. Simmons, the owner of a diamond manufacturer industry named Van de Kaap, was present in the meeting in the hope that he would be able to help them to solve the conflict in Sierra Leone. Meanwhile, back in the diamond mine in Sierra Leone, Solomon accidentally found a pink diamond the size of a quail egg worth around $60 million. He immediately put it between his toes so that nobody would see it. He then asked for permission to go to the toilet and took the chance to bury the diamond. Unfortunately, Poison saw him and was about to snatch the diamond, but suddenly, the armies ambushed the location. Solomon was accused of being a part of the group and was sent to prison, along with other RUF members that were caught. In the prison, Poison kept asking Solomon to hand him the diamond. He would even give $1,000 to someone that could bring him the diamond. One of the inmates named Danny, who was just sent to prison for smuggling diamonds, heard about it and decided to find it. The next day, Danny was bailed out by his friend. He then asked his friend to bail Solomon out so he could ask him the location where he hid the diamond. Danny was after the diamond so that he could sell it to a diamond manufacturer to get a lot of money so that he could leave Africa. Danny was an ex-mercenary from Zimbabwe who ended up being a part of the weapon smuggler syndicate that sold their weapons to RUF in exchange for diamonds. The other day, when after doing a transaction, he deliberately hid the diamonds inside the sheep coast, but he was caught and sent to prison. He couldn't finish his job to smuggle the diamond to Colonel Coetzee, the leader of the mercenaries that provided the guns for the rebellions. When Danny arrived at his place, he immediately took a piece of diamond from his fake tooth and immediately went to sell it so that he could buy a gun from a bartender named Maid. That was when he saw a woman named Maddie. Without thinking twice, he then went to chat with the woman, but soon after he found out that Maddie was a journalist that worked to reveal the syndicate behind Van de Kaap who secretly bought diamonds from Sierra Leone. He immediately left her. Turned out, Danny also worked with Van de Kaap to sell his diamonds, and he was aware that Maddie would ruin his job if he got too close to her. Danny then returned to his place just to find his room was messed up. Turned out it was Colonel Coetzee who did that because he was mad at Danny for failing his job to smuggle the diamonds, so the next day, Danny went to meet Colonel Coetzee. It was clear that the colonel was furious about Danny's failure, and because of that, the colonel asked Danny to find the pink diamond that Solomon found as compensation for the diamonds that Danny lost and all his debts to the colonel. Turned out Colonel Coetzee had found out about the diamonds from his informant. He swore to kill Danny if he failed to bring him the pink diamond. Somewhere else, Solomon was seen looking for his family in a refugee camp, but after looking for a while, he still couldn't find them. He panicked because they might still be out there, away from the safety of the camp. Meanwhile, the RUF was ambushing in another village and turned out Solomon's family was there, sadly. Dia was caught and taken to the rebels' camp. He was brainwashed and sent to fight for the rebels. The next day, Danny went to meet Solomon, who had started working in a hotel in the capital of Sierra Leone. He immediately persuaded Solomon to tell him the location of the pink diamond in exchange for him to help Solomon to find his family. Solomon initially refused to tell him, but after he heard Danny's promise, he was willing to help him find it. Soon after, the RUF was seen, so they immediately ran away from there. Thankfully, they managed to escape, but they were left in grief as the rebels laughed while killing a lot of people they found. After leaving the city, Danny took Solomon to meet Maddie. He deliberately did that so that Maddie would help them find Solomon's family's whereabouts in exchange for information about all the syndicate involved with Van de Kaap and the diamond smuggling activities that Danny knew. Hearing that, Maddie decided to help them, and soon after Maddie found information about Solomon's family, they immediately went to find them. They were stranded in a refugee camp. As soon as they met, Solomon cried happily. He longed for them so much, but when he found out that Dia was captured by the RUF, the happiness changed into a sorrowful cry, and the cherry on top, Maddie told Solomon that he could only meet his family again after the war ends. The next day, to fulfill his promise, Danny told everything he knew about the diamond smuggling and the involvement of Van de Kaap. He told her that he had managed to smuggle a lot of diamonds to Monrovia, the capital city of Liberia. There, he would bribe the customs staff to pass the inspection for the diamonds and confirm that the diamonds were mined in Liberia, not in Sierra Leone, so that they could later be exported to Antwerp, a city in Belgium. The diamonds then would go through the sorting process and later exported to India, where the diamonds would be mixed with all the diamonds from all over the world. After that long process, the diamonds would be bought by Van de Kaap to keep them safe and later sold at a very high price. Van de Kaap was not funding the war directly, but they were involved to keep the war going. All the evidence was kept by Danny. After telling everything to Maddie, Danny asked Solomon to pretend to be his cameraman so they could follow the press convoy to the district of Kono, where Solomon buried the pink diamond. They then went to the location with the other journalists escorted by the armies, but in the middle of their trip, the rebels showed up and ambushed the convoy. Fortunately, Danny, Solomon, and Maddie managed to escape the ambush. They then continued the journey through the forest, and shortly after, they were stopped by the local million. They were part of the local tribe, the Kamagers, who were not involved in the Civil War. They panicked, but Maddie quickly took her camera and told the locals that they went there to cover the news about the fight of the Kamagers against the rebels. Shortly after, the three of them were taken to a house where a lot of children that were once brainwashed and told to fight for the rebels and the orphans took shelter. The man managing the shelter was a man named Benjamin. In the afternoon, while watching the children playing, Benjamin told Danny the story of when he managed to save the children from the rebel group. He then told him that everyone initially has kindness in their hearts, but their actions were the ones that lead them to what they become, and by giving a little love, even the worst would return to kindness. Nobody knows what would lead them to God's blessings. Benjamin's words made Danny rethought about his life, and when Maddie approached him, he immediately broke down and poured his heart and shared his problems with her. He told her that his mother was harassed and shot, while his father was beheaded and hanged on a crane in an abandoned warehouse. He only wanted to leave Africa to feel peace for once without all the war and blood. He thought if God had forgiven them, but after seeing all that, he realized that God had long left the place. Maddie hugged him to calm him down. The next day, when Benjamin was taking Danny and the others to Kono, they were ambushed by the rebels. Unfortunately, Benjamin was shot and seriously injured. Danny then went full speed to leave the place and escape the ambush. After that, Danny went to meet Colonel Coetzee that turned out to have been waiting for them in Kono. He told Danny to take all the equipment to dig the diamond, but when he was taking the equipment, he asked Maddie to divert the attention of the mercenaries so he and Solomon could go to the location of the diamond without them. After taking the equipment, he said his goodbye to Maddie because she would soon leave Africa to return to London since the situation had gone even worse. Before leaving, Maddie gave Danny her card. Danny hoped that Maddie could meet someone that loved her so much because despite having a feeling for her, Danny knew he was not meant for her. After that, Danny and Solomon ran as fast as they could. When they entered a village, an old man told them that RUF had reached the next village. Hearing that, Solomon decided to leave for the village to save Dia, but Danny stopped him because he wanted to keep Solomon safe. He promised to bring Dia back to him as long as he wanted to go with him. They finally arrived at the mines. Nearby, the rebels were seen guarding the place, so Danny decided to call Colonel Coetzee and told him their location. They then decided to wait for the colonel to come. That night, Solomon, who had longed for his son, recklessly went inside the mines to find him without telling Danny. The moment he found Dia, he immediately took his hand and left from there, but Dia refused to go. Dia, who had been brainwashed, instead thought of his father as the enemy, causing him to get captured. The next day, Solomon once again met with Poison. Poison ordered him to show where he hid the diamond and threatened to kill Dia and his whole family if he refused. Solomon, who was fed up, then brutally attacked them when suddenly Colonel Coetzee and his troops arrived and bombarded the place, giving Danny some time to save Dia. The moment later, the RUF was eliminated. Colonel Coetzee then asked Danny to press Solomon so he would tell him the exact location where the pink diamond was buried. He threatened to kill Dia if Solomon refused. Cornered and scared, Solomon finally told the location, but when he was digging the place, Danny gave him a signal to do the plan they had prepared before. After managing to eliminate Colonel Coetzee, Danny told Solomon to look for the pink diamond because the armies were on their way to their location. When they were looking for the diamond, Danny realized that he was shot. A moment later, Solomon finally found the pink diamond, but suddenly, Dia pointed his gun at Danny. Solomon quickly told him that everyone was worried about him and was waiting for him to return home. Thankfully, after hearing those words, Dia came to his senses again. After hugging his son, Solomon and the others immediately left from there. While walking, Danny asked Solomon to give him the diamond, and Solomon, without thinking twice, handed over the diamond. Danny then called his friend to pick him up on the hilltop. His friend told him to reach the hill all by himself, but instead of doing that, he kept telling Solomon and Dia to keep walking. Danny finally lost all his energy and fell. Knowing that Danny was injured, Solomon immediately carried him on his shoulder. Soon after, Danny told Solomon to put him down. He knew that he wouldn't make it to the hilltop. He returned the diamond back and along with Maddie's car to Solomon. He also told him to immediately call Maddie as soon as he arrived in London. After that, he told Solomon and Dia to leave him to keep walking. While waiting for his time to come, he called Maddie and told her to promise to keep Solomon and his family safe. He was grateful for having to meet such a kind woman like Maddie, and after telling his goodbyes, he finally breathed his last. The next day, Solomon finally arrived in London and immediately met Maddie. That day, he was going to hand over the pink diamond to Simmons, while Maddie would watch from afar. Soon after, Simmons arrived and was about to give Solomon $2 million in exchange for the diamond, but Solomon refused to sell the diamond unless he could be reunited with his family. The very next day, Simmons managed to reunite Solomon with his family, and the pink diamond finally fell into the hand of Simmons. Long story short, Maddie finally published an article about the smuggling of the pink diamond, and the people from around the world finally realized that behind the beauty of the pink diamond was the death of thousands of innocent souls.